Okay, so welcome to Rewired for Leadership. I am Jo Englesson, and I'm going to be your trainer today. And I'll tell you a little bit more about me later. But today is a class on leadership. And in the class, it's also sort of a sampling of my 6-week course, Rewired for Peace, that starts in January. So let me tell you a little bit about that first, so you get to know who I am and what I'm about. So Rewired for Peace is a course that's basically morphed its way into being throughout time, experiences, collective effort. And its foundation is a collection of work from our fathers and mothers of transformation, such as Werner Erhard, John Enright, Alexander Everett, and others from the human potential movement that was born about 60 years ago. Now, 15 years ago, in 2007, that was the first time I came across this work. And 15 years ago, I'm getting old. I attended transformational training, and I was just absolutely blown away. And it had me reframe my entire life, like past, present, and future. It was like if I was on this track for what was going to happen in my life, it wasn't a bad track. But after that and the new track I got on, like I couldn't even have dreamt that up. It wasn't even a possibility. So I was able to step into this whole new world of freedom, leadership, power, gratitude, and possibility was just endless. Then 3 years after that, in 2010, I hired some of the top trainers in the field, and together we designed the gratitude training. Because for me, it was important that because, our consciousness and our minds and our everything is changing in the world. So it needed a little updating, in my opinion. And so I changed the context a little bit of the training and rewrote some stuff and created the gratitude training, which essentially was a transformational leadership training with a focus on creating a transformed world, which for me, has always been peace, to create peace. Because that's the result that I want to see in my lifetime. Peace in our minds, peace in our families, peace in our communities, peace in the world, peace on the planet, basically. So then over the following 10 years, the gratitude training experienced this massive growth and was operating in 5 cities across the US with over 20,000 graduates. And they're all out there in the world today as leaders in their lives and in the world. And as with any business, especially because of the rapid growth, there was, ups and downs, like our headquarters was destroyed by a hurricane. I was cyberbullied for 2 years, all of these things causing cash flow issues and stress, right? So when COVID hit and I had to close all the centers overnight, I knew there was no going back to the way things were. Because I had over $200,000 a month in expenses, and then suddenly overnight, no income. And so some people ask me why I didn't pivot, and offer the trainings online right away. And well, I couldn't, because it would have meant that I would have had to need to generate like 200,000 a month in the first month, and then every month thereafter with a new online business model. And it seemed like a tall order to me at the time, because I was also devastated. So instead, I took 2 years off, and I handled, closing the business, filing personal bankruptcy, moved the family to Mallorca, Spain, where I'm sitting right now, where my parents have lived for the last 30 years. So now I could probably spend a few hours giving you a sob story about losing my business and a house in Florida and, all that stuff, but that's just not who I am. Even though the 2 years were hard, my vision of peace and my gratitude for life has still stayed intact. So about 10 months ago, I decided it was time to spread my joy and gratitude and knowledge and experience with the world again. And more importantly, I wanted to share this powerful work, because by this time, redesigned to be effective online to reach a much broader audience. Someone told me once that I needed to stop being a big fish in a small pond. Well, now I'm a small fish in a really big pond. So that's a good thing. So let's get started. So first off, I want to acknowledge you all for being here. And I want to invite you to be on this call as an active listener. Just pay attention, don't have your phone on, and don't try to drift off in your mind. Just try to be here and take the information in, because you're here, so you might as well, right? And also, I would like you to be listen from a space where you let go of all your judgments, assessments, filters, stories, right? And just be open. In fact, I actually want you to listen from a space that is, I create everything. So you create everything, right? Like that you're creating this, you're creating everything. You created this call, you created the content of the call, you created being on the call, you created me wearing this outfit, like everything. So if the call is amazing, you created that. If the call is horrible, you created that. Now, trust me, I will take responsibility if it's horrible as well, but we are all co-creators, right? Because you're the one at choice to create the value that you want only all the time, So my intention is that when you get off the call today, because of something you heard or thought of, you're going to contribute uniquely to your surroundings. And that will have in itself a butterfly effect that you might never know. But it's going to be amazing because you are that important. You are the light and you have what it takes. So I used to take this training course, and in this training course, they taught us how to start sessions like this, or when you speak on stage. I used to be a keynote speaker. And one of the things on the list of that you do is you earn the right? And earning the right for a speaker is essentially you want the audience to know that you have the credentials, the experience, or the knowledge to speak about the topic you're presenting. But since this class is about leadership, vision, purpose, and principles, I am going to introduce myself like this. I am Jo Englesson, and I'm a charismatic and joyful innovator who creates peace in the world in the field of transformation and technology. Now that's my life purpose mission statement. So just keep that in mind. Because what matters is my vision and how I execute it and inspire others to take action on their heartfelt desires. And that is why I've invited you here today. Because I think it's becoming pretty clear to us by now that the virus has been here long before COVID-19, right? So my background is in computer science, and I used to consult for large law firms in the 90s. Yes, I am that old. Now, back in the day, the computer viruses that were created and distributed were either designed to crash your entire computer immediately or systematically over time infect different software and files or hardware. Someone's coming in. Now, what I've been noticing over the last decade with this exponential growth in processing power, social media and other, tons of other newer emerging technologies, some of which hasn't even become common speech. We don't talk about it yet, but they're out there, right? Is that over time, we've become, like us human beings have become like the programmable beings, right? We've become the computers running our different operating systems. And a huge part of our operating system is our underlying assumptions, right? These assumptions that operate underneath our consciousness, underneath the surface, right? And it's like a virus. And then we live and we take them as if they're true. And they've gone unchallenged. And so we live out of these underlying assumptions that we take as true. And on a computer, what happens, and type in the chat, what happens when you leave too many apps open or when you get a virus, right? If you have too many apps running in the background, what happens to the battery? What happens to the processing power, right? So we got crash, right? What else happens to a computer? It slows down, exactly, right? Or the battery dies quicker. The battery bogged down, exactly, thank you. It dies. It dies. It gets drained, right? So the battery gets drained, it dies quicker. And the processing power slows down, or we crash, it lags, it's bogged down, it makes mistakes, right? So human beings are a lot like computers, or maybe I should say smartphones today, right? We have all these assumptions and these limiting beliefs, these narratives that operate under the surface of our consciousness, okay? And so imagine having that, first of all. And then now we're in this new fast life, fast processing, fast life, everything now era. It's a completely new era. And so we have to start adapting, right? Like, because we have technology that assists us in saving time, right? And we always hustle. And sometimes it feels like time is shrinking, right? But mostly our time is shrinking because of our stinking thinking, right? And we have to become these quick learners, and we have to adapt. And it's insane. You used to want to tell somebody something and you would send them a letter in the mail, right? Now it's like, oh my God, they haven't called me back. And you literally called them a minute ago. It's insane. And we're supposed to keep up. It's like all this information. It's like information overload, slander, it's attacks, it's hate, right? And with just a few clicks of a keyboard, right? In our house or our room, we could just do anything. We could say anything and people will hear it. And we've become addicted and desensitized. We spend more time looking for evidence to be right about a thought or an assumption than actually questioning the thought or the assumption in the first place. We just subscribe, right? We just subscribe to anything that has us feel better in the moment, not even caring about how that may affect the next moment and the next moment and the next and our kids' future. So in my experience, what happened when COVID hit, with all the other, immediate issues being highlighted, was simply the effect of a virus that has been growing for a long time. And we could choose to be grateful that COVID happened, because without it, and without a drastic breakdown or crash, maybe we wouldn't be so aware of how we've been living and relating over the past decades. Because as many of you know, COVID sort of like was the big thing the whole world was part, but then on top of it, you have like, a century of political discord, like moving into a certain direction, right? And there's environmental issues that have been moving for like, over probably a century by now. So there was so much brewing, and we have become so complacent, right? And so with that said, right, the pandemic and the division and the discord and environmental issues, it's not really the cause of our problems today. It's actually the effect of them. The effect of not being present to the entire system as a whole. The effect of our egos running the show for way, way too long. Now, I don't want you to hear this as blame or that we all did something wrong. We could not have done it any other way, given the level of consciousness we were. But here's the cool thing. All of this is like being hit over the head by a 2x4. And now the question is, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to hit back? Are we going to say thank you for illuminating years of programming that simply is not creating what we want for our future generations? It's going to be our choice. So this is about leadership. So what is a leader? What is a leader? I want you to think about someone who is a leader that you admire. Someone, maybe it's your dad, like maybe it's someone in your family, maybe it's a mentor at work, maybe it's a successful businessman like Steve Jobs, or politician, anyone, either living or from the past, like Gandhi, right? So I want you to think about a leader that you admire, and I want you to type the name of that leader in the chat. And if it is someone that is not known, please also state the relationship. So like Cynthia, my mother, or Johnny, my boss. MLK, Jesus. Andrea, my boss. Beautiful. Anthony Robbins. He's a great leader. Ram Dass, yes. Jo Englesson. Oh, that is so sweet. Lazaro, oh my God. Lazaro Oshongiri. Sorry, I don't know how to say that, but I hope I did somewhat okay. Spiritual mentor. Jim Collins, author, good to great. Pima Chodron. Oh, Lisa, you're really going out there. I love it. Okay, so now, and if you're still typing it in, feel free to still hit enter and contribute. But now I want you to type in the chat. What are some of the traits or qualities that they have, the person that you wrote down? What are some of the traits or qualities that they have? And I want you to type that in the chat. Motivating, patience, wisdom, love, inspirational, conscious, knowledge and legacy, supportive, loving awareness, gentleness, yet strong, adaptable, authentic, courage and supportive, belief in themselves first and then others, humility, peace, presence, love, vulnerability, effective speaker and listener, caring, open to everyone, gracious, patience. Oh, I love you guys. You were quick with that one. It's amazing. So now I want you to think of three different categories. Actually, in fact, I'm going to put them up on the screen, so it'll be a little bit easier. So these three categories: skill, knowledge, and attitude. Okay, and let's take some of what you wrote. Right, like you have patience, humility, peace, vulnerability, love, authentic, courage, support. Almost every one of these. Where would you pick a category for most of the ones I just read? If you had to pick between skill, knowledge, and attitude. So we have wisdoms, oh, there we go. So I see attitude. Okay, attitude, awesome. Compassion, humility, compassion, yes, knowledge. And knowledge, absolutely part of it. But a lot of it that you wrote, a lot of it was attitude, right? So there was this research that was conducted by Harvard University and the Carnegie Foundation and Stanford Research Center. And they all concluded that 85% of job success comes from having well-developed soft and people skills. Which in this case would be the attitude. And only 15% of job success comes from technical skills and knowledge, which is called hard skills. So soft skills essentially is like we had communication, leadership, responsibility, teamwork, flexibility, openness, integrity, humility, compassion, growth mindset, vulnerability. I mean, you had pretty much all of these in there, and there's obviously tons more. So those are soft skills, and we in the trainings that I conduct, we call these ways of being. Okay. Now I want you to think about how much money you've spent on enhancing your knowledge, right? And honing in your skills in your lifetime versus how much you've spent on working on mastering your attitudes in all areas of your life, right? Like, what is your attitude when you wake up? You know, when you go to Starbucks, get your coffee at the office, when you pick up the kids, like how much time and money have you spent honing in on those skills versus honing in on knowledge and skills for professionally? Okay, yes, Rock, I will ask that again. And you don't have to answer this in chat. I want you to think about it. Think about how much money you spent on like education, skill training, getting more knowledge, like knowing more, not as far as knowing how to be, just knowing more information. How much money you've spent in your life on that versus how much money you spent in your life on working on your character traits, working on your soft skills, working on your people skills, working on your vulnerability, working on your attitude, working on your happiness, your joy, like all the stuff. Money, right? So presence that, and then there was another study, right? If soft skills, right? So look at this. They found, and this was in 2010, so still 10 years ago, but they found that the needs from a leader and from people in the workplace, there was an 85% need of better soft skills. And 85% of the the successful people were using 85% of soft skills versus their skills and knowledge, like the hard skills. And at the same time, another research looked at the actual dollars spent from people on hard skills and soft skills. And it's 72% of that money was spent on hard skills and 28% on soft skills. So if soft skills are 6 times more important than hard skills for job success and leadership, why is it almost 3/4 of all the training? Why is 3/4 of all the training dollars going to hard skills? There's a huge disconnect. Okay. Now let me add this. The study that I told you about earlier, the skills and knowledge study, that study was made in 1918, right? That's over 100 years ago. Yes, you heard that right. So we've known this for over 100 years, yet not much have changed because it's so ingrained in us. Or should I say we have these underlying assumptions or beliefs that we just can't seem to shake yet. I mean, it wasn't until 1990 that schools began to develop and incorporate character education. And still today, not many of them have it. So we're just, as a collective, we're just running an old operating system and living as if it's real and true and valuable. It's fascinating to me. All the studies are out there, but nope, I ain't gonna work on myself. I ain't gonna spend money on working on myself, right? It's like ingrained. So essentially in the 20s, we get clear through research and study that soft skills are 6 times more important to achieve success. And then not until the 60s does the human potential movement start, right? And not without lots of criticism, regardless of the incredible results generated by the students of that work and the teachers of that work. Because it challenged this old belief that skill and knowledge or cognitive intelligence is more important than being an emotionally intelligent being. In fact, it wasn't until the 90s that EQ even began to catch on in like regular speech, EQ being emotional intelligence versus IQ, which is cognitive intelligence. So what's the deal here? I'll tell you, human beings are so righteous about our beliefs, right? And what we think we know, that we will ostracize anything that challenges how we have it. I mean, we're talking 100 years. And what we tend to do with that righteousness is we make up shit and we only subscribe to information that will back up what we're being right about. Now, here's the catch. The only way out of this box of beliefs is to actually experience it for yourself. You know, when we read about something or we didactically taught something, we don't really experience the effects of what we're reading or being taught. So for instance, if you learn how to ride a bike, right? You cannot learn how to ride a bike by reading the manual. You actually have to do it. You actually have to experience it. And it's the same thing with emotional intelligence. In order to learn and master it, you have to have an experience of what it can be or what it is to be vulnerable or what it is to be loving or open, whatever it is. Right? So in the field of transformation, it's called experiential learning. And it's a necessary ingredient in having a chance at even challenging beliefs that may not serve you or may not serve the world anymore. And in the 6-week course that I'll talk more about later as well, we do just that. We begin to have you uncover if what you're doing and how you're being in terms of your attitude is effective, and if it's creating what it is you want according to your vision, your values, and your principles. And we call this attitude, like I said, or the soft skill, we call it ways of being, way of being. So then the question is, how do you know which ways of being or soft skills are required for you to get where you want to be? To get from the current reality to a transformed reality? Well, first, you actually have to want it. Whether it's from the pain of where you are, if that's driving you, or maybe it's your vision that's driving you. But once you're clear that you want it, you have to believe it's possible and that you have everything it takes to go for it. Then you're ready for the essential piece, which is commitment and committed action. See, the gap, if you look at the screen, so to get from the current reality where your current results are to a transformed reality where your desired results are, there's a gap in between. And the gap is the space between where you are and where you're committed to getting, right? And the moment you are in your current reality and you get committed to something new, you enter the gap. The moment you make that commitment to something that isn't already happening in your current reality, right? You enter the gap. And you're also essentially what we call in the trainings, we actually call that being in breakdown. Because who you're being and your actions now is not congruent with the person that would have what it is that you want. So on some level, there's a breakdown, right? And it is in this gap that the ways of being and actions necessary will be revealed to you. So essentially, your commitment, whatever it is for you, is what will define your gap. And your commitment is also what will have you bridge the gap. So taking committed action towards the things that you want is what's going to have you find out what are the ways of beings and actions that you need to take. Otherwise, you're just going to sit in your own hamster wheel. And maybe you'll get committed to something like simple, like taking your kids to school every day, you know, which is an amazing commitment. There might be more. So for me, like, while the answer has been sort of like I've known this for a while. It's been clear to me, the road to it, or, you know, I kind of, I've done a lot of work, but how do we actually experience it? Like I can know it up here and whatever, but like the actual road to it and the experience of it, maybe not so much. Maybe I haven't been that clear on that, because we kind of have to experience it to know it. So like I said in the beginning, while the pandemic was the final blow to my business and livelihood, it wasn't really my 2x4. I think my first 2x4 happened in 2017 when Hurricane Irma, it was like 3 years before the pandemic, when Hurricane Irma destroyed our training center. And then subsequent to that, I had about 5 more blows. And yet I kept doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting different results. Essentially, my operating system was not working. And yet, what did I do? I kept rebooting. I kept rebooting, but I was rebooting into the same operating system every single time. So by the time COVID hit and I shut down gratitude training overnight, I had no energy. I had no more Jo power to reboot. And somehow I knew it was time to take a real hard look at what is going on here with me and with the world. And so I got immersed in current events, and I still am, and observing social media, right? I began to realize that the problem wasn't really what I thought it was. It was actually a lot simpler than I thought. And it all boiled down to taking personal responsibility, committed action, and transformational leadership, which is why I want to have this course on leadership. Because when we begin to become accountable for the past and then take responsibility in the present moment, then we can start creating from a clear space. We can say, that was so, this is now what? And instead of reacting to everything, just reacting based on our underlying assumption, instead of reacting to everything in this endless loop, basically the loop is like, I know this happened in the past, so I can predict what's going to happen in the future. Oh, I know this happened in the past, so I can predict what's going to happen in the future, right? We're never present. If we could just create enough space to take a moment to reflect, a moment to stop. And then before we react, or before we subscribe to an idea, or before we try to be right about how we have it, right? Before we take action on it, whatever the situation, to create enough space to have a choice, Then, from a powerful place of responsibility, make that choice. Make a choice that aligns with what's important to us, our principles, our commitments, our vision for the world. That should be all that matters, the long-term goals. And when we do that, there is a new form of leadership that emerges. It's a leadership that's unique to each and every one of us, each and every one of you. And it shows up uniquely for everyone. It shows up differently. Now, I want to show you some foundational elements of leadership to get you started on this journey. And this next slide is actually credited to Werner Erhard, which is one of the transformational, I should say, grandfathers. So 4 ways of being for great leadership, okay? He says these are the 4 ways of being that are the foundation for great leadership and for a great life, and also for running a great business for those of you that are running businesses. Number 1, being authentic. Now, let's type in the chat for a little if you have thoughts on it. What do you think being authentic means in this context? Or maybe in any context. So in the chat, being authentic. Now you can be authentic about your inauthenticity. Okay, here we go. Being honest with yourself, standing for what you believe, act according to your values. Okay. Yeah. Being authentic is being and acting consistent with who you hold yourself out to be for others and who you hold yourself out to be for yourself. Right? And when you're a leader, when leading, being authentic actually leaves you grounded and able to be straight up with others without the use of force, being able to be powerful without the use of force. Now, here's the crazy thing. You can't try to be authentic, right? There's nothing authentic about an attempt to be authentic. So how do we be authentic, right? It's when, actually the only path to being authentic is when you start becoming authentic about your inauthenticities. That's when you become authentic, right? Specifically, being authentic is being willing to discover and confront and tell the truth about where in your life you're not being or acting consistent with who you hold yourself out to be for others and for yourself. Living it. Just, yeah, being it. And stripping yourself of all survival mechanisms that we have that stops us from just being our true self, just being authentic. Okay, number 2. Thank you guys, being vulnerable, absolutely. Number 2, being cause in the matter of everything in your life. Okay, being cause in the matter. So what do you think that might mean? Being cause in the matter of everything in your life. You get to change our context. I don't know if that was on before. Responsible, right? I'm responsible of my own reality. To be responsible for your action, living with intention, purpose, ownership. Exactly. So being cause in the matter is actually, it's a stand you take. It's a stand you take on yourself and your life. So a stand is like a declaration that you make. So it's not actually a statement of fact, right? Because being cause in the matter is viewing life and acting from the stand that I am responsible, I am cause and for of everything in my life, right? And so it's not necessarily true, right? It's not true that you're the cause for everything that's happened, everything that's happening, and everything that's going to happen. It's not necessarily true with a capital T, right? But it is a place to stand from which to view, it's a perspective from which to view and deal with life. And this place only exists for you because you choose it. It's just a choice to take a stand as being source and the cause and everything. And what happens is when you do that, you give up the right to be a victim to anything, and you get all the power to create the future. All right, number 3, being committed to something bigger than oneself. Being committed to something bigger than oneself. So we touched upon it a little bit, because if you're here, it's being committed to something that's on the other side, right? And really getting that commitment. Because being committed to something bigger than oneself is the source of this passion and charisma required to lead and required to develop others as leaders. And it's also the source of being persistent. And the way Werner has it of being persistent is, he calls it joy in the labor of. That's persistence. So when the path gets tough, you can access that joy in the labor of because of your commitment to something bigger than yourself. And number 4, being a person of integrity. What do you think that means? Type in the chat. While I have a sip of water. Being a person of integrity. Living in truth, to be honest with oneself and others, being your word. Standing on values and keeping your words. Thoughts, feelings, and actions are aligned. Beautiful. Being present. Okay. Living your truth. So integrity for anything is the state of being whole, complete, unbroken, sound, right? In perfect condition. And integrity is a matter of a person's word being whole and complete. Nothing more, nothing less. So be who you say you are, right? Do what you say you're going to do. And while keeping your word is fundamentally important in life, it's the most important thing, is honoring your word. You're not always going to be able to do it. Maybe you will if you play a really small game in life. But you can always honor your word. You're not always going to keep it, but you can always honor it. So honoring your word means I keep my word. That's one way of honoring your word, keeping your word. Or whenever you are not able to keep your word, just as soon as you're aware of it, that you're not going to keep your word, you actually tell everyone that's impacted that, sorry, I'm not going to be able to keep my word, and I'm going to keep my word in the future. And by when you're going to keep that word, or that you won't be keeping the word at all, you got to let them know. And what you're going to do to deal with the impact on the failure of you not keeping your word. That's honoring your word. Now, let's talk about values for a little bit. These foundations are not good or bad, right or wrong, right? From a values perspective. They're simply a path to create trust, peace, joy, private and social value, workability in your life, workability in the world. Now, values are, however, very important when you create principles for your life. And how many here are clear, like you're clear on your principles? I mean, clear enough, like maybe you can't, boom, write them down right away, but you're clear, you act on principle. And if you are, type yes. And if you're not, type no. And you can say maybe if you're like unsure. So I'll keep looking. So I see yeses, maybe. And then notice yourself. Maybe you saw a bunch of yeses. You're like, I better write yes. Yes. I'm not going to write no after all those yeses. Right? Just notice yourself. Be authentic. Right? So values are qualities or standards that sort of determines our behavior or the behavior of a person. And the principles are more like rules or beliefs that determines our actions, right? So the main difference between values and principles is that principles are based on a person's values, right? So it's values that act as the foundation for principles. So for instance, if a value is connection, your principles could be family or oneness or whatever, however connection would play out in a way that you can have almost as a rule to live your life, that you won't budge on. If your value is love, the principle would be like, how do you express that love, right? What's the action that you can set in as a principle? Maybe it's quality time. Be kind to people. Whatever it is. Your value is integrity. Your principle could be honoring your word. Or sometimes the value and the principle sound very alike, like your value is compassion and the principle is be compassionate. And you know, if you're not compassionate, you are going against your principles, your own law for yourself. So in the gratitude training, in the leadership program, we have 5 principles of leadership. And so some of you that have gone through that have seen them before, and I'm just gonna go over them. The 5 principles of leadership. So the first one is, if it's to be, it's up to me. So that's like responsibility to the 100th degree, right? If it's to be, it's up to me. 100% possible 100% of the time. That is opening up a space of possibility in your life, that anything is possible 100%, 100% of the time. There's always possibility. But we get so righteous to like what we think that we want and how it should look and the possibility, right? Like it's not even a possibility at that point. It's like we're forcing something. But there is always possibility, just how we always have choice. Even when we're only offered one solution, you still have choice. I can choose it or I cannot choose it. Or you choose it, even if that's the only thing you do, you just choose it. A friend of mine had a friend that was so into choice that anytime she talked to her on the phone, the woman would go in the middle, like she'd just be like, you know what, I'm going to choose to get off this call now. Like she was like, I'm going to choose to go get a water. I'm going to choose, like it was constantly choosing, which is really powerful, you know? So, third one, I live my vision as though my life and the lives of others depend on it. Now, when you read this, I want you to hear it. I want you to really see the words as though, right? Because you know it doesn't, but you could take that stand. I live my vision as though my life and the lives of others depend on it. That's what's going to call you forth. Number 4, my vision, commitments, and promises are what dictates my way of being and actions. So promises, being your word, integrity, commitments, the vision, it's dictating your way of being, and you don't let your feelings and your judgments and your assessments and all of that, you don't let that dictate your ways of being and your actions. You let your vision and commitment and promises dictate how you're going to be and how you're going to act. And then the last one, my favorite one, I am grateful for everything. So there's always something to be grateful for. And even when you feel like you might not have something to be grateful for, you do. Because you're creating it. You're setting it up. So you might as well be grateful how brilliant you are, whether you're creating what you don't want or whether you create what you want. Be grateful for everything. It's a level of responsibility to the next thing. So why don't we just take a second and everybody write something that you're grateful for in this very moment. And I'm grateful that I have someone cooking dinner for me. Grateful being here with Joe. Grateful for breathing, health, and high energy. Free course. Thank you, Joe. Grateful for my wife. Grateful to be present and take all this great information. Grateful for the breath of life. Grateful for my kids and having loved ones. It's beautiful. That reminder of number 5, life's gifts received so far today. I love it. So see, because transformational leadership, it's a little different than the regular leadership that we have sort of in the world, or what some of us know as the drift. But transformational leadership is about becoming aware, to have a vision that drives you, to be authentic, to be kind, to be loving, compassionate. It doesn't matter what stage you're on, at home with the kids or on the world stage. Both matters just as much in the entire puzzle of life. And I think we forget that. Each person's contribution to life has the exact same value. Some of it might be working against each other, right? But it's got the same value in the puzzle. It's all fitting into the puzzle of life. And the moment we think we know better about someone else's life journey, right, and their unique contribution to the whole, and we think they should be or think differently than they're showing up, in that moment, we crush any possibility for autonomy and harmony and peace. This is key right here. Because we think we know something. I know something about leadership. I'm a great leader. Now I'm better than. No, you're not. You're not better than, ever. You can never be better than, because we're all as good. So what do we do, right? How do we be if we want to be this contribution that we already are? Well, awareness will help us get there, but we accept what is. We let go of the past. We recreate our future from nothing, no thing. Declare what we want. Take a stand to find unity, connection, gratitude, and love in all of our affairs, in all of our relationships, in all of our families, in all of our connections. And most importantly, we shine our light. I'm going to show you a little video, and I want you to just read the text and just hear the music and kind of zone out. And as you do that, just think about who you are. Just think about who you are. Video. So it is, oh, I'm all fuzzy here. It is my belief that what's needed at this moment in time is leaders that know how to be the guiding light for everyone in their presence and beyond. And it can be easily created by becoming aware, by becoming interested, learning new distinctions, new perspectives, virtues, values, concepts, and tools that will have you thrive as a transformational leader, or what I like to call peacemaker, who is present, authentic, contributing, and most importantly, a beacon of light, even in the dimmest of situations. It's up to all of us together to rewrite the narrative that we want to leave our kids and our future generations. So it's time to stop talking smack and choose to be inspired and do something. Now, I understand that, we all have valid circumstances and consideration in life, like maybe a loved one is dying, divisions, diseases, losing a job, your business, remote, whatever it is, racism, shootings, there's a lot considerations. So it may take some time for us to rise up again. But just think of the 100 years it took us to get here from knowing that working on your character traits is a valuable thing, right? Let's be patient and maybe work a little quicker this time. Be a little more open, like as if you can be more open, just be open. So on the simplest level, just choose something that will change your path just a little, maybe take a half an hour a day where you do something that is, that it's been in your head, like put down the phone, or choose to do something or be something that will matter. And then do it again. And then do it again. And again and again. And begin to lead in your life by example. That's how you become a leader in the new narrative. And that's how you become a leader for the world rather than in the world. See, the way the world has a lot of times, especially right now, the leadership that is valued right now is a leadership that comes from, it stems from control and dominate. It still creates results, and that's the scary part sometimes, but it's this control and dominate paradigm or way, context. And what I believe that we need more than ever is inspiration and creation, inspire, create context. And that's what's going to shift it. So begin to lead. That's how you become a leader for the world rather than in the world, right? You become a leader for the world rather than in the world. So what is next then? How can I support you in supporting me to create a new narrative, a new world, new leadership? Because now, after, kind of getting out of my 2-year, taking some break off, like I'm going global. I'm committed to inspire all of you and the world to step into our unique leadership and then be part of a new movement that will foster and birth this new paradigm. And so for those of you that resonate with that, I'm calling you forth to accept your birthright desire to make a difference by honing in your unique gifts, by identifying your effective ways of being, and by mastering your EQ, your emotional intelligence. So join me to explore what the world needs now, right? Who we are in our day-to-day life and how each of us can plug into the vibration that has us serve our kids, families, communities, and the world in the absolute most effective way. It's not about self-help anymore. It's about bringing us to the table, authentic and honest, ready to lead from compassion, love, whatever. Whether it's in our home, at work, community or in the world as a whole. Because when we all awaken to the notion of being source, the generators, the creators, we regain the power to make a profound impact on the planet now. And I say now, and there's going to be an impact that we won't see because we won't be here anymore. But I am committed to seeing a lot of it in my lifetime. So a transformational leader focuses on mastering their being first, right? Skill and knowledge is essential, but they mean little for a fulfilled, successful life, right? If the emotional intelligence is not there. Now, the way the masses have it, like a regular leader usually acquires the skill set and knowledge first and then attempts to lead from that alone, right? And they fail, and then they fail again, until they realize they have to shift how they're being to create what they want. And that is my hope for the people that I, in my worldview, think are not running a transformational leadership right now in the world. My hope is that their skill and what they know, and they keep doing it without having that emotional intelligence, eventually they're going to fail until they realize they have to shift how they're being to create what they want. And that's true for us too. And the world is transforming. The world is changing. You see so many adults now picking up all these books or listen to endless podcasts on how to hone in on the qualities of successful people and all this stuff, right? But what most find difficult is they don't even see, or they don't find it difficult. What the problem is that we don't even see or know ourselves enough to know how to alter how we already are. So how do we do that? And I said it before, through experience, right? I mean, we've all had solidified, right? Like you solidified a transformational change in your entire being, right? By going through hard time or having significant experiences in your life. But here's the deal. You don't have to lose another loved one to understand grief. You don't have to get a divorce to get what rejection is, or you don't have to go through all that hardship to learn the hard way. Because my 6-week course, Rewired for Peace, uses a transformational technology that essentially breaks it down to nuts and bolts and gives you the awareness and the tools that will work in any and all situations. Any and all situations. Death, pandemic, loss, stress, division, family issues, relationship issues, health, all of it. Maybe not mental health. There's another place for that. And this technology is already used and has been used by today probably hundreds, maybe more companies across the world. But the reason you may not have heard of it is because there was always a secrecy to it for the purpose of not giving information away, because that would ruin the experience of the new student, right? But here's a sentence of what Rewired for Peace is. Rewired for Peace is an opportunity to uncover and redesign the underlying assumptions out of which you live your life, such that you experience a profound shift in your ability to relate to yourself and others, empowering you to fully engage your heartfelt commitments with freedom and passion. Really, what I'm offering, I'm not offering success. I'm not offering for you to create amazing results. I'm offering to be able to look at the world from a different perspective. Now, may that create results and success? It may. But you're going to be using it the way you use it. And that's it. So even if you're on this call and maybe you're like, you think you're not a leader, you don't want to be a leader in the traditional sense, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to our future generations and everyone you encounter to master life and master your emotional intelligence. That's how you be peace, until you then experience peace and then see peace. So here's my big, huge sales pitch for today. Do the 6-week training. If you haven't, I see there's many of you that have already done it. But do the 6-week training. You know what? I would love it if maybe someone that took the training that hasn't taken the gratitude trainings, maybe would be willing to share your experience of the course. So let me see who's here. No, you guys are scared I'm going to call on you. Let's see. Amber, are you willing to share? Awesome.
Sure. So for me, the thing that resonates with me the most about what we went over today and what I got out of the course was just that connection with other people and being able to see your limiting beliefs and being able to just when you're working with people and you find that resistance and being able to notice and be aware of that resistance and be able to get through it. For me, it was the biggest thing that came out of the 6-week program. I'm still working on it a lot right now. And I go back to my notes quite often, but I living day to day, I go, oh, there it is. And Jo, you pop up in my head absolutely every single day. So that
wasn't my intention.
No, but but in a good way, because your voice and the stuff that I learned in the course, in the 6-week course, pops up every day in my head because I'm noticing it. And I notice when the past is steering me rather than my integrity or living to my word or in my word. So it was a life-changing course for me. Really, really, really was. There's been a lot of different things in my life that have been dramatically changed. Primarily for me right now is relationships and how I am able to see resistance in my relationships and can get through them a lot easier now.
Awesome. Thank you, Amber. Let's give her a hand. And I did see Dolores pop in here. Dolores, do you want to share? From London?
Yeah, hi everyone. Good evening. Yeah. Hi Liz. Hi, my classmates. Yeah, it was actually it's changed me because when I talk, I say at my age because I'm gearing to be 70. And I have actually done a lot for myself previously, but on this course, on these 6 weeks, it just changed me 360 degrees in the area of relationship, family, and my business. I'll tell you, within the 6 weeks, I was able to take some decisions regards my farm back home, and I've been able to add many acres, making where I have now 75 acres of farmland. I was so scared before I went on the course. But when I heard what people had to say, the training, the integrity, what I gained from it is not what I can actually explain today. Like I say, it's going to be in a book that I've started writing. And my coach, my boss, has been very, very well. She's very open. She's somebody that anyone can get to at any time. That's Jo. You can ring her, you can, message her. She's always there to support. So
I always help you with the time difference.
Yes, you always do, darling. Without you, I won't be here. So another thing I'm doing, I'm going on a cruise for 3 weeks. I'm going to take gratitude to the ladies I'm going to meet. There are 40 of us going, so that's an opportunity for me to sell it and tell people what it is and how, just like now we've had, we are in it. We can make it happen. We can change the world. We can put hands together, regardless of where you are coming from. You can come from the US. From next month, I'm going to be in Ghana. I'm going to do the same thing. Try to bring people together, you know, to show people that there is something you can do. It has actually changed my life. It's a course I will actually recommend, and I've recommended to friends as well. You will not be the same again after 6 weeks, to be honest. I think the money we paid, well, we're giving so much discount on it. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you,
very
Doris.
much.
Let's
I'm
give her a
grateful,
hand.
yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, so much. And I'm so happy that you're creating all this magic in your life. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that you're connected, staying connected.
Yeah.
So normally the course is $675. On the site, I'm offering it at $200 off, $475. But today I'm also knocking off an extra $200.
Wow.
So the entire course plus the awesome bonuses I'll show you, it's only $275. So do the training. I don't know what else to say. There are no magic wands, there are no quick fixes, no shortcuts. And I don't want to sell you any of that anyway, right? Because I know that this will catapult you and it will create an army of, and I don't like using the word army, so a community of powerful change makers, right? Whether it's in your life or in the world. And for those of you that are on this call and that haven't taken Rewired for Peace, but you have taken the live trainings in the US, the Rewired for Peace is very much like your part one that you took. And here's why you should do the training. First off, it's a great refresher, right? So I've had people that have done it again. And, you know, we've all had a few challenging years and the drift is powerful. And second, you may want to join me and become certified to deliver these introduction courses and the 6-week course on your own, under your own umbrella, own company, to your own community. And it's a prerequisite to actually attend first as a student. So do the training. And in a couple of hours, I'm going to send you an email with the recording from today and the sign up link. And in fact, I'm going to put the sign up link in the chat right now as well. And I'm going to bring it up here too. Oh, there we go. You guys can see this? Yes. So the next course, which is our 4th one. Wow, time just goes fast. I can't wait till it's like thousands of these courses running all over the world. Anyway, the 4th one is on January 10th till February 14th. And we also have a certification course that starts on January 5th. So you will be in your office hours, which is part of the bonus. You'll be meeting some of the trainers to be, because they will be coming into your office hour. And they might also sit in on some of the classes. You have 2 days, 4 hours for this $275 offer. You will be getting an email with the link as well. If you're ready to sign up, you can sign up right now. There's some testimonials on here. And the bonuses, if you sign up today or within the next 2 days, is a weekly Q&A office hour, which happens at night because at night for the US. So I'm up till midnight to do the office hour because some of you have a hard time making the 2 hour during lunch hour. So if you miss some, you can hop on the office hours and still get a lot of value that way after you've watched the recording, of course. Bonus number 2, we have a private Facebook group and access to me, like Dolores said, as of now, and I hope it stays that way. I am very accessible and I love it. So you can share your journey with your peers and get to know everyone. And then the other one is the Source Movement online recorded course, which is an 8-week self-study course in awakening for people that want some spark of inspiration and purpose. And that alone is valued at $275. So anyway, it's almost $2,000. It's only $275. So if you are thinking about it, like this is the time. And I want to say this too. If you want to take this course, I'm going to ask that you move into the gap. Right? I'm going to ask that you move into get committed. Just get committed, because only you can make the choice and the commitment to do something that will get you to where you want to go in life. And most of us don't, because we get stuck in our box about what we think is possible and what's not possible. We get stuck in our box of circumstances, right? Biggest ones being, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time, or skepticism. That's like one of the big ones, right? And skepticism actually stems from a victim context. It's like, you're not going to be able to do me, you know, it is not going to work on me. I'm not the creator. I'm not the generator of my life. I'm not good enough. Nothing will work, right? So whatever circumstances you have, they're the same stuff that has you stay in the context you're in right now with the results you have. So might as well break through them now. Now, some of you may say, you know what, I have great results. I'm already doing this, you know, like this is awesome. I say, great, awesome. But let's take it to the next level of leadership. Because our results right now are war, discord, division, failing planet, diseases, famine, you know, shootings. Need I say more? So if you are at I'm good, you need to get to everyone's good. And if you are at, you know what, I'm not good in my life, then you need to get yourself good. And this course will do all of that. So I'm going to put up a quote and I'm going to play a song. For those that want to sign up now, you can do that during the song. And I would also love it if you could put in the chat what your biggest takeaway was from today before you go. So if you have, you know, an extra few minutes, look at the quote, chat in what your biggest takeaway was, and or sign up if you're ready to get in on that. So let me share. There is that. And so with that said, thank you so much. And I'll stay on here if anyone has any questions at the end of the song. And here we go. Some of you have heard it already.
Every time I fall down, as soon as I hit the ground, remind me who I am, yeah, and I'll get back up again. I'm getting up, yeah. This is my master plan. I'm gonna take a stand. Take it or leave it. I am what I am. I believe that I can. I'm gonna take command. Take it or leave it. I am what I am. I am what I am. I am what I am. Bending backwards, turning feeling. I'll make them understand, yeah. Take it or leave it. I am what I am. Rebels inside my head. Late at night in my bed. It's time I shut you up, yeah. 'Cause I think I've had enough. I've had enough, yeah. This is my master plan. I'm gonna take a stand. Take it or leave it. I am what I am. I believe that I can. I'm gonna take command. Take it or leave it.
clapping at the end. All right, so does anyone have any questions? If not, bye, thank you so much. And I'll just hang on here for a minute for some questions if there's anything. Let's see, I'm gonna stop the recording too.